You are about to see information that, until a few hours ago, was restricted to high-ranking officials. Information that shows the largest American military attack in the hemisphere in over 30 years could begin at any moment. And most impressively, Brazil is directly in the path of the consequences. But before revealing everything, leave a like and subscribe to Military Power News, because what you are going to see here does not appear in the mainstream media, and it is being monitored in real time by governments all over Brazil. Yesterday, inside Air Force One, Donald Trump made a statement that shook the world. He stated for the first time that he has already made the final decision about Venezuela. It was no longer speculation. It was no longer a political threat. It was the definition of an idea. And the phrase he used was direct. I will no longer allow Maduro to poison young Americans with fentanyl and cocaine. But why does that phrase matter? Because that public statement, recorded, broadcast, and confirmed by advisors, automatically activated the final protocol of the United States Southern Command, the United States Southern War Command. In the early hours of the morning, intelligence officers, satellite analysts, pilots, military cartography specialists, and Pentagon representatives gathered in Miami. And something that never happens, happened. They made the images of the attack public, satellite images, drone photos, MQ-9 Reaper thermography, digital maps, and coordinates. Exactly 27 targets inside Venezuela. And here I ask you a question. Why would a country publicly reveal all the targets it intends to destroy before the attack? Is this a warning, a provocation, a humanitarian notice? Or is it a strategy to break the Maduro regime's morale before the first action? The answer is still being debated, but one thing is certain. Never before have the United States shown so much, so quickly and so openly. The one who presented all this was none other than Admiral Alvin Halsey. According to him, the coordinates are already loaded into the weapon systems of the gigantic United States ship carrier strike group, Gerald R. Ford, the largest and most advanced aircraft carrier in the world. And do you know where it is now? Completely surrounding the Venezuelan coast. When we talk about American military power, we are talking about something that no country in the hemisphere can even try to face. And on the Venezuelan coast, right at this very moment, they are ready to fire Tomahawk blockade missiles and F-35, FA-18 Super Hornet fighters, Virginia-class submarines, armed with ballistic missiles, attack helicopters, drones, surface ships, and airborne warning and control system radars. Everything, absolutely everything, lined up, calibrated, and just waiting for the president's final command. And what are the targets? The released images show Maracay with Russian Su-30s parked side by side with pallets of cocaine. It is worth mentioning the Porto Cabello Naval Base, where frigates of the Bolivarian Navy escort cargo ships loaded with drugs. It is worth mentioning the port of La Guaira, with refrigerated containers full of cocaine destined for Europe. It is worth mentioning Maiquetía Airport, a point of night departures to Honduras and Mexico. It is worth mentioning 23 refining laboratories in Sierra de Perija and Paraguaypoa. It is worth mentioning the oil fields of Cabaimas and Tia Joana, where oil is mixed with drugs to evade detection and sent to China. It is worth mentioning the Simón Bolívar Bridge on the border with Colombia to prevent any kind of escape by the enemies. It is worth mentioning Fuerte Tiuna in Caracas, the military heart of the regime. And yes, even the Miraflores Palace is on the list, but it will only be targeted if Maduro is confirmed to be there at the time of the attack. If that happens, we are talking about a surgical precision strike with tomahawks capable of going through a window. The United States did not wait for the final attack to act. They have already started a silent but extremely aggressive campaign in the Caribbean. In the last 75 days, 21 Venezuelan vessels have been sunk. 28 tons of cocaine and tons of fentanyl were seized. 1.8 tons of heroin were intercepted. More than 80 narco-terrorists were completely eliminated. Trump called all this the beginning of the end of the most dangerous cartel in the world. And who leads this cartel? According to official United States documents, Nicolas Maduro, yes, the one who rigged the 2020 elections, head of the Los Solis cartel and current president of Venezuela, wanted since 2020 as a global terrorist with a reward of $50 million for his capture, Nicolas Maduro is starting to see his regime crumble before his eyes. He is classified under exactly the same law that allowed the attacks on bin Laden, Zarqawi, Baghdadi, and Qasem Soleimani. In other words, Trump can order the elimination or capture of Maduro at any moment. Now we have reached the most critical point and the one most ignored by the press. The border between Brazil and Venezuela is completely vulnerable. Roraima, Pacaraima, and Boa Vista, all these places are about to face something even the army did not imagine, a war-driven wave of migration. And here is a question for you. If between 300,000 and 800,000 Venezuelans cross the border in the first 48 hours, how will Brazil handle that? Because according to the Brazilian army, there are only 3,500 soldiers spread out over 2,200 kilometers of border. There are no physical barriers, there are not enough drones, and there are not enough personnel to control the flow. And most alarming of all, among the crowd will come innocent families, deserter soldiers, members of Chavista collectives, criminals from the Aragua train, and corrupt Bolivarian guards. In other words, a human flow that is impossible to filter quickly. The Brazilian authorities have already worked on their internal scenarios, and the worst of them is this one. 2 million refugees entering Brazil in just a few weeks. This destroys the healthcare system, collapses Boa Vista, creates a risk of widespread violence, opens the door for criminal infiltrations, and puts the Brazilian army in a situation never seen before. Field hospitals are being set up in a hurry. The border is on high alert. Radars, helicopters, and Guarani armored vehicles are being moved to the north. The atmosphere inside the Ministry of Defense is one of controlled panic. You know the nearly 10,000 soldiers who took part in Operation Amazon 2025 in the past few weeks. They were going to return to their bases, but now they will not anymore. The exercise has become a real operation. The jungle battalions of the 7th BIS, the Black Hawk helicopters, and the Sabre M60 radars will be stationed in Pacaraima and Boa Vista, in addition to battalions along the Brazilian Highway 174 and in Amazonas. The objective is to create controlled humanitarian corridors, separate civilians from criminals, and prevent armed Venezuelan infiltration. General Tomás Paiva has already informed Lula the troops will have to triple. It could reach 25 or 30,000 men before Christmas. The country is facing the most delicate situation in its modern history. Unstable border, infiltration of armed groups, possibility of direct confrontation with Chavista militias, and all of this depends on a single event. The first Tomahawk missile launched by the United States in the Caribbean. When that happens, Maduro will have only a few hours of political life left, and migratory chaos will become inevitable. The situation could explode at any moment. The attack could start today, tomorrow, or within a few hours. And when it starts, Brazil will not have time to prepare, only to react. In the next video, I will reveal what the first hour of the American offensive will be like, including the type of attack, where the missiles will come from, how much time Maduro will have to react, and how the Brazilian border could collapse. So, you know what to do. Leave a like, subscribe to Military Power News, and turn on the notification bell. Thank you for watching until now. A big hug, and see you next time.